Is it okay if I ask you a question about work?
Is it okay if I ask you a question about work? He's shaking his head, yes.
So I want you to ask him, what makes you not want to do your own offer if you can't do it perfectly? What area did you want to start in, or do you feel like is the best place to start? Like, and it would either be perfect or closed or needless. What do you have in perfect?
If it's not perfect, it won't work.
Okay. What
I
else?
think there's just like some general perfection around that. Like, I don't want to do it unless I can do it perfectly.
I think that is actually really accurate. I want you to write that
Yeah.
down in that language. I don't want to do it unless I can do it perfectly. And I think that, I mean, that comes up a lot in a variety of ways with many, many clients. Like it's very consistent that anything about starting a new business or a new division within a company, even or a different product, whatever it is, that comes up a lot in a variety
I've
of
had that.
ways. And so
Yeah.
basically, like, you know, having that perfection angle, and it's a common thing with people that are very capable. So like it's typically people that are very capable and actually have a high degree of intelligence that have this problem. So it's like, if I can't do it perfectly, then just forget it. And it goes back a lot to educational experiences as well as being, um, you know, kind of like judged or given approval by doing things how your parents want them done.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like a little window into quite a bit. That's often the historical data that people arrive at, no matter what question they ask, when it comes to this kind of an issue. Okay, so it's really common and normal, and it makes sense that you're having that go on. Yeah, okay. So let's make a question for perfect. So we always start with what, so we turn a why question into a what question. Pretty much 99.9% of the time. There are variations, but I'm not going to get into that right now because it's not going to be helpful. So basically, what makes you not want to blank, blank, blank unless you can do it perfectly? Or what makes you not want to start it unless it can be exactly right? I mean, you can play with the language, but what are we going to call it? Like, what makes you, it says I don't want to do it unless I can do it perfectly. So are we going to say like build our own offer, or are we going to say our own business, or what do you want to use as the signifier? What are you going to bind all this to?
I think it's more of an offer than a business.
Okay. So what makes you not want to do your own offer? And then you have the, if you can't do it perfectly right away, or if you can't do it perfectly, or if it's not exactly right, or kind of how does the language work in your head, basically? Because that would be the best way to make the question.
If you can't do it perfectly,
Okay. It's a good question. And now I'm going to offer you the question, and then we're going to see. So, what makes you not want to do your own offer if you can't do it perfectly? It's a good question.
yeah,
Does the question make sense to you?
yeah, it does.
Does it resonate?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Okay. Do you need an alternative?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So these are the things you want to ask yourself whenever you're building a question. Is does it make sense? Does it resonate? In other words, do I want to know that? Do I think that's what's in the way? And then do I need to make other questions to compare it to? And
Hmm.
that way you can always kind of, it'll help you to, if you're doing it on your own, to kind of go, okay, that fits. I'm going to ask that. And this feels right to me. It makes sense.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, to me too.
Okay, good. So that's what we're going to do. So on a blank sheet of paper, you're going to write the question at the top. What makes you not want? I have to do the same thing, actually. I wrote this on the bottom foolishly. What makes you not want to do your own offer if you can't do it perfectly? Can anyone else relate to this triggering? Yeah, most of you. I mean, I know I can, and it doesn't have to be about an offer. It's like if I can't do it perfectly, no matter what it is, this triggering often will show up for people. Okay, so it's a good one to work on, I think, for all of us. So what makes you not want to do your own offer if you can't do it perfectly? Okay, great. And then I want you to label that with a T for teen, or right teen. Perfect. And so it seems kind of like simple, but I mean, that's just all that needs to happen. You don't need a fancy template or anything like that. Just write it like that. Okay. All right. All right. So then what you're going to do is you're going to sit as comfortably as you can. Sorry, I have allergies when it rains. So you sit as comfortably as you can. And then whenever you're ready, you're just going to close your eyes. And I want you to take a breath in through your nose. So breathe in through your nose. And out through your mouth. So breathe in through your nose. And then breathe out through your mouth. Good. And breathe in. And down. Breathe in. And down. Breathe in. And down. Breathe in again. And down. And breathe in. And down. Good. And just continue to breathe. Just breathe in and out on your own at a pace that you like. It just feels natural. And just let yourself breathe and sit and be. And whenever you're ready, whenever that is, there's no rush. In your mind's eye, I want you to envision your teenager. So you as a teen, and however he shows up is great. Just let him show up. And then once you start to see him, and he gets a little more solid, I want you to tell me what he looks like. I want you to describe him to me.
He's wearing a gray Green Bay Packers t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got light brown hair, checkered shorts, and he's got a gap between his two front teeth.
Mm-hmm. It's a strong image. How old is he, if you had to guess?
9 or 10.
Okay, good. Yeah. So where are you seeing him? Where is he?
He's sitting in, or standing in the dining room of my stepmom's old house.
Okay. All right, so whenever you're ready, I want you to go over to where he is. And if you feel very tall compared to him, you can get down on his level a little bit. If not, that's okay. And then whenever you're ready, out loud, I want you to say hi to him.
Hi,
I haven't seen you in a while,
I haven't seen you in a while,
and it's good to see you.
and it's good to see you.
I've been thinking about you.
I've been thinking about you,
And I've been thinking a lot about work stuff too.
and I've been thinking a lot about work stuff too.
Is it okay if I ask you a question about work?
Is it okay if I ask you a question about work? He's shaking his head yes.
So I want you to ask him, What makes you not want to do your own offer if you can't do it perfectly?
What makes you not want to do your own offer if you can't do it perfectly?
So what is he saying or doing, if anything?
He says, I'll fuck it up and mom will get mad.
Okay. So I want you to say, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
I'm going to think more about what you said.
I'm going to think more about what you said.
And I'm going to come back and talk to you about it later.
And I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk to you about it later.
Is that okay with you?
Is that okay with you? He's shaking his head, yes.
I want you to say, you did a great job answering my questions.
You did a great job answering my questions.
And so you can go back to doing whatever you were doing.
And you can go back to doing whatever you were doing.
And I'll see you later.
And I'll see you later.
So I want you to wait until you don't see him anymore. So either leave him there or let him leave you. But when you don't see him anymore, I want you to feel your butt on the sofa and your feet on the ground, and I want you to come back to your place and on our call. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay. Very good. You did a great job, Brad.
Thank you.
So what was it like to talk to him? What did it feel like, or what was it like?
It felt pretty good. I feel like I have a pretty strong relationship with both of my kids. I feel like I usually see them pretty well on a day-to-day basis.
Good for you. That's
Um,
awesome.
so actually the teen looked different than he usually did. He was maybe 1 or 2 years younger, and he was
It's a
like
young
very,
teen.
very clear.
Yeah,
Like
no, it
clear,
was
like they're
a
usually pretty clear, but very clear.
yeah, it was a very vivid image. It was very strong.
Yeah.
Um, and it is a younger version of your teen, which isn't bad or good. It's just interesting, you know, when they're young like that. And that's kind of why I was like, you can get on this level if you need to, or I don't know how tall you were when you were 9 or 10, but that's good. So what do you attribute having that what you're saying, which I can tell is true, like having this strong connection with both of them? What do you attribute that to? What are you doing or not doing, or has it always been that way for you since they were integrated in?
It's kind of been always that way. I'm like, what really works for me is, like the journaling in general. Like I'm pretty good about doing that. And I used to do that before we started working together, but I didn't do like the teen and child thing because I didn't know that existed. But
Right.
so I mean, it's like when I journal, like I think I said on another call, it's like somebody saw my journal and be like, oh, this person's schizophrenic, talking to a bunch of different people.
Don't worry, that's what mine looks like too. It's very, very helpful if you journal regularly. It kind of makes all the difference. And that's why I keep trying to be like, hey, check in with them in the morning or check in with them at night, or don't make a big deal out of it. Just keep it alive. Like, it's like, you know, the more you do that, the easier the access is to the triggering, and then also when you want to talk to them. But I was also struck by how strong the image was, because I haven't done this with you yet. So that was good. Okay, so I want you to write down what he said. He said, I'll fuck it up and mom will get mad. So literally write down, I'll fuck it up and mom will get mad. So next you want to identify your feelings. So what feelings does this sentence generate? You want to focus in on this sentence and kind of how he felt and you want to pay less attention to secondary thoughts. Right? So it's kind of like, I'll fuck it up and mom will get mad. What feelings does that make for you?
Fear.
Yeah, so notice your teen is also having fear. Fear is not exclusive to the child. It's predominantly with the child, but this is very much your teen. So there's fear there. Good. What else?
Anger.
Uh-huh. He's mad. Mm-hmm.
maybe a little bit of pain.
There is
Um,
some pain. And it's not
I'm
just
kind
a
of
lilt,
surprised.
there's some pain. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Like, there's not any shame or guilt. I read maybe a tiny amount, but I don't really feel it. I feel more pain and anger and fear.
Yeah. I would say I want you to look at I want you to look at shame and decide if that's your teen or your child shining through. What do you think?
I don't know. It doesn't feel very strong. So
It's not anchored to your teen. Okay, so
yeah.
there is a lilt, I will call it a lilt of shame, but I think it's your child. And I think that has to do with the younger teen showing up. But I do think there is some guilt that belongs to your teen. It might be a little bit of a secondary thought, like I'm gonna fuck it up and then, but it's there. But you have to decide if that's true. So that's what I see, but you need to ask yourself. Because even though I'm saying that's there, you have to go, can I touch that? Is there a little bit of guilt being made here? What do you think?
Maybe I have some guilt in general when I think back to myself when I was a teen about, certain things that I did, or maybe like for example, like this one is like pretty strong. Like my mom had cancer when I was like 17. So it was older than I was, 9 or 10. But like that's like when I was at my like peak of being like a rebel, like, like drug taking, like drinking, like teenager. And so my mom basically like kicked me out of the house, and my dad like rented me an apartment, and I lived there by myself when I was like 17. And at the time I felt guilty about the whole situation.
I'm sure
And
you did, but you also would not have been able to control yourself for that situation.
no, no, not at all. I felt guilty, but I was just like, yeah, whatever, fuck this. Like, it'll be
Yeah.
better for both if I just leave and get out of here.
And
Um,
that kind of level of guilt is kind of what's in here. It's like that. It's like a little bit after the fact. You know what I mean? So I would go ahead and identify it as belonging to here. Um, but yeah, I mean, and you kind of having those kinds of reactions was not just based on your mom's cancer, but I mean that could be a complicating factor where you would have more of a rebellion based on the fact that she had cancer. You didn't know what to do about it.
mhm.
So just something to think about. It may not have been just that you were just a big asshole. It might have been a reaction to such
Right.
a crisis in the family. So fear, anger, pain, and guilt. And then you want to think, well, where did this come from? So you want to go into your historical data next. So did you fuck things up and mom would get mad? Is it that direct?
Yeah, I mean, like my mom was pretty hard on us when it came to like schoolwork and behaving and trying to be like perfect children or give off the image to other people that we were, the perfect family and perfect children.
Yeah.
Um,
So basically, if you didn't do or respond or behave in the way that she wanted, then she would get mad.
mhm.
Okay. So then write historical data or HX, and then you're going to put if I or you, however you want to think about it right now, didn't do what mom wanted, which you can change that language a little bit, but I just want to make sure you have it captured. Then she would get mad. But that mad, or kind of doing what she wanted or didn't want, was linked too much with approval. So in other words, it would have a shaming element to it, as opposed to, you're okay, but I don't like what you're doing or what you're saying. It's like, no, you're not okay because you're doing that.
Right.
And so that's why it's showing up here in this way. So it shouldn't have been linked with approval. Like, you're still okay, but she wasn't able to do that. She couldn't hold both. It would come across as, I'm disappointed in you.
Hmm.
And so that's the problem. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay. And so that's what you're going to be kind of explaining to him. So if you didn't do what mom wanted, then she would get mad. And then you have this other stuff about like, hey, you thought that you were not okay. In other words, approval is linked with actions or deeds. Okay? And that's not cool because it causes problems, causes shame blocks and guilt and these other feelings as well. All right, so just so you understand, that's the mechanism, or that's what occurred. And so then, you know, I have to go, and so do you guys. But next you want to do, remember you're just doing your prep work. So next you want to go and do your wisdom. What do you want them to know about mom doing it that way or doing it like that? And so you're going to have like a little sentence there. It was wrong of mom to treat you this way. Something like that.
Okay.
Or to make it seem like she didn't approve of you anymore whenever you didn't do what she wanted. Or it was wrong of her to shame you when you didn't do what she wanted. It depends on what kind of language you want to use, but it's all saying the same thing. All right, so you're going to have a comment on that. And then some wisdom that is bound to the current context. So you just need one piece of wisdom about the historical data and what occurred. But you need some wisdom about, I don't want to do an offer if I can't do it perfectly. Right? Like, how are you ever going to know if you don't try? Does it have to be perfect? Mom's not here anymore. You know what I mean? Like, she's not going to be watching, which sounds crazy. Like, it's funny, right? But I mean, you can even tell that to your team.
Right.
So your homework is to come up with wisdom that goes with this.
Okay.
So make a list, and anything goes. It's like, make a list of what you think. And if you guys did that process with him, like, in other words, I mean, because the other thing is, I'm doing this with him and asking this question. If you have a very similar or same question, no one's stopping you from closing your eyes and going through it yourself. You know what I mean? And then maybe you'll have a direct quote or prompt from your team that then you could correct. Because this is kind of a universal. Like, these come up all the time. Okay? So come up with your wisdom. You know what it's about. And then if you want, you can go ahead and try to build it into a correction. If it doesn't feel like that's okay for you, then you could just come back to the call with your wisdom, and then we can write the correction together. But I encourage you to go ahead and try to write it because you know how to write them. So, and then the only difference is like, when it comes to these that you're writing, whenever you've asked a question, is you start with repeating back the question to him. So literally it's like, I know you don't want to do your own offer if you can't do it perfectly because you think, and then drop that quote in there. I'll fuck it up and mom will get mad. So again, it's, I know you don't want to do your own offer if you can't do it perfectly because you think, I'll fuck it up and mom will get mad. So you're just repeating back the question and then providing the answer. And then the rest of it just kind of goes how it normally goes. So you learn this when, or growing up, mom would get really mad at you if you didn't do what she wanted. It made you think she didn't like you. You felt ashamed, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're going to have a linkage sentence, which is not on your template. That has to go on there too. And so basically that's like, so now you think that she's going to get mad at you all over again, blank, blank, blank.